I'm doing something a little different today. This is a quick PSA for people undecided as to what to do with their vote in the elections for the European Parliament on Thursday the 23rd of May 2019. First off, the European Parliament elections are not a second referendum on the EU. That said, if we don't get a second referendum, then we won't be in the EU long enough for new MEPs to do anything, so the idea that we should be prioritising wider policy in these elections is ludicrous. What that means is that, though these elections are not a second referendum, they are a clear statement to the government as to whether the country would be interested in one. The largest petition in history wasn't enough to convince them. The two main parties getting reamed at the local elections wasn't enough to convince them, and millions marching on Westminster wasn't enough to convince them, so this is our next viable option. With that in mind, the first thing to remember is that you should not vote Conservative or Labour. Allow me to explain. There are two non-reprehensible reasons for leaving the EU. Sovereignty or believing that the EU is broken. Assuming you believe the sovereignty argument, then there is only one way to make sure that we definitely do not have sovereignty, and that is by leaving but still being a bit in. It means we still have to abide by the rules set by an EU that we are no longer a part of. If you believe that the EU is broken, then you either want to be out so you can make your own laws and demonstrate what a proper government is, or you want to be in so that you can vote on the changes that would fix the EU. A soft Brexit helps nobody apart from politicians trying to pander to people without completely tanking the economy. So, being that the Tories and Labour are both firmly in the fence-sitting camp, we can ignore them. Even if we did end up staying in the EU, what sort of candidates do you think a party that expects to leave the EU will be fielding? Alright, now to the meat in this pie. Who should you vote for? First off, if you're in Northern Ireland, vote for whoever you want to vote for. I'm not up on policies over there, but it's single transferable vote, so as long as you don't write anything next to any Brexit parties, then it's all good. As for the rest of us, I'll be mostly focusing on England and hoping that enough of it makes sense for Scotland and Wales. So, if you have a strong opinion of which Remain party to vote for, do that. Otherwise, if you would have voted Labour or Conservative but you want to cast a Remain vote with some policy weight tangled in, well, that's easy enough too. Conservative voters, you're now Lib Dems. If it's good enough for Michael Heseltine, it's good enough for you. The same thing goes for if you liked Labour under Tony Blair. There's also a case to be made for Change UK, but that's only because they're navel-gazing Lib Dems. If you are a proper Labour supporter who liked Corbyn back when he was cool, or the good old days of the 1970s and beyond, well, you're a Green voter now. All the left-wing goodness with none of the pandering to the will of the people. That leaves us with swing voters and tactical voters. What you need to do is go to remainvoter.com, assuming it isn't down, and do whatever they tell you. What Remain Voter has done is crunch the numbers that are available to us. They know who's got a safe seat so they can work out what to do with the spare votes that aren't enough to get the bigger parties an extra seat. You may find that this means you're told to vote Change, and I know that's going to make you miserable, but that just means that Greens and Lib Dems are already going to do well in your area, so be happy with that. Finally, what really matters is the percentages. Even if the tactical voting doesn't work, we need to come out in big numbers for the Remain parties. Brexit will take the most seats of any one party, but if they can't get a decent majority of the popular vote, and if the Conservatives and Labour get wrecked, then we have a chance of convincing people to push for a second referendum. If we don't turn up, then we're just resigning ourselves to crashing out. That would be bad. But Ed, I hear you cry. You forgot to mention what Brexit voters should do. That's simple. Post a comment down below explaining why you want to vote Brexit, and myself or some other friendly Remainer will help you understand why you've not thought it through properly, and will not be condescending or insulting because this isn't that kind of channel. And once we've convinced you not to vote Brexit, go vote Lib Dem.